Turn things over to Ranking Member Paul for his opening remarks.
26 years ago, a bipartisan Senate commission chaired by the late Senator Moynihan warned that excessive government secrecy and overclassification have significant consequences for the national interest. The commission found that secrecy is the ultimate mode of regulation, for the citizen does not even know that he or she is being regulated. So what happened in the decades since the commission recommended Congress reassert its authority and reform the executive branch classification system? Well, the problem got even worse. Executive branch officials from both political parties continue to arbitrarily overclassify government information to prevent oversight and withhold information from the public. Both parties are guilty of this. According to the National Archives and Records Administration, in 2017, over 4 million Americans with security clearances classified nearly 50 million documents, a system that cost the American taxpayers over $18 billion. President Biden's own Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, acknowledged the overclassification problem on numerous occasions. As Director Haines said in January of this year, overclassification undermines the basic trust that the public has in government. There is no better example of undermining public trust than the federal government's continued refusal to share with the American people information about the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Department of Energy recently shifted its position on COVID-19 origins and joined the FBI in concluding that the pandemic was most likely the result of a lab leak. The FBI director later publicly confirmed the FBI's position that the pandemic most likely originated in the lab. If not for transparency, if not for whistleblowing, if not for the media getting hold of this information, it would still be classified. Realize how crazy it is that they've classified a conclusion, not the source, not even the data. They classified the conclusion. They weren't even telling us that the FBI and the DOE had come to this conclusion. So recently, Congress showed strong bipartisan support for the need for transparency on origins of COVID-19 by unanimously passing a bill requiring the Director of National Intelligence to declassify information from the Wuhan Institute of Virology and the origins of COVID-19. I'm glad that President Biden signed the bill into law earlier this week. However, President Biden only committed to declassifying and sharing information consistent with his constitutional authority to protect against the disclosure of information that would harm national security. And that sounds good, but it also might be an excuse for not declassifying a lot of information. Given the administration's track record on transparency, I'm concerned that the president's statement suggests he will not publicly release all the information that exists. And it isn't just classified information. The executive branch is withholding from the American people on COVID origins. Most of what I've asked for is unclassified, and they're still resisting. Nearly a dozen federal agencies, including the Departments of Health and Human Services, State Department, Defense Department, and the FBI, refuse to disclose thousands of records in their possessions relevant to the origins of COVID-19. Many of these records aren't classified. I've sent dozens of letters over 2 years to federal agencies requesting these records only to be stonewalled. In fact, recently disclosed emails made available by the Freedom of Information Act actually show that the Defense Threat Reduction Agency employees in private emails were scheming to obstruct my request, mentioning me by name and saying, we're not going to give any information to this guy. The American people deserve transparency and accountability. If we are being asked to sacrifice these values in the name of national security, that definition should be narrowly tailored to protect only what is necessary to preserve our sources and methods. In the Pentagon Papers case, Justice Potter Stewart remarked upon the wisdom of avoiding secrecy for its own sake. In his concurring opinion, Justice Stewart wrote, "When everything is classified, then nothing is classified, and the system becomes one to be disregarded by the cynical or the careless and to be manipulated by those intent on self-protection or self-promotion." I want to thank our consensus witness panel today for being here today. My hope is, Mr. Chairman, that we have a unique opportunity to address overclassification by the executive branch in a bipartisan way. I think any reform, though, has to be us taking back some power. If we leave it up to, please, executive branch, please give us information, it won't work. There has to be a hammer, and we have to take back some of the power. It originally was ours. We've let it drift away from us. We got to grab back that congressional authority. Thank you.